thanks a lot for the introduction, Catherine. Very happy to be here to present the work of the organization I work for, and also tell you a little bit more about the broader perspective of what does the country, the Netherlands, do to accelerate the transition towards animal-free science. So first of all, a little bit more on our organization. Who are we? We are an NGO, a foundation, animal welfare organization, who is 100% dependent on private donations from mainly Dutch citizens. We do not get any public funding, so communication towards our contributors is always very, very important. We always have to justify where we spend their money on, and also explain why we do this. So the communication part is always very, very important to us. Currently, we have a team of 11 people. We're based in The Hague in the Netherlands, operate mainly within our country, but there definitely, some of our work goes beyond borders. For example, we're also a member of the Eurogroup for Animals. And of course, we're visiting international congresses and try to expand our impact beyond the borders as well. It could be that some of you might know our organization from way back. We used to be a complete different organization in the sense that we had the same goal of wanting to fully replace the use of animal testing. But we did it in a completely different way than we do it now. So this is, well, a compilation of several pictures that show how we used to work. So we protested. We were really against animal testing. We were basically against the people performing the animal experiments. But nowadays, and that's for like the last 20-25 years, we focus on collaboration. We are in favor of the development and implementation of animal-free innovations. And we work together with scientists. We work together with the people that might in one way perform animal experiments. But these scientists are also the ones that can come up with the solution. They are the ones that can develop and implement animal-free innovations. So that's when we started to collaborate, and we focus on the possibilities of non-animal methods. And we kind of look always for the common denominator instead of focusing on where we might be different and have different opinions. So positive point of view, try to stimulate what is already there and have the non-animal methods implemented too. So our current mission and vision is that we believe that one day animal testing will no longer be needed. Innovative research projects will develop viable alternatives that are better for animals and men, at the same time advantage science. So that's what we really believe, and like Catherine already said, that's also my conviction. I have a background in biology, and I really believe that we can improve science by focusing on non-animal methods. So these non-animal methods, I think in the audience, most of you will know what I talk about, but just to be sure, we are thinking of the use of stem cell technologies like organoids, for example, organs on chips, but definitely also computer modeling, artificial intelligence, 3D bioprinting, but also think of plasmids, which is a specific example of the animals that are being used for education purposes. And what these plasmids are, they still use an animal, a pet that has deceased, and they replace all the fluids in the body with silicones so they can keep it for years and years. So we operate in different fields, but if I talk about non-animal methods, these are in a broad way the methods that we think of. So our current strategy is a result of the ethical and scientific objections we have against animal testing. But the focus is on the potential of animal-free innovations. And because of that, we focus on, one, the scientific research. We financially support research projects, but we also can do an in-kind contribution by, for example, communication or disseminating using our network, see if we can help implement the developed alternative too. And a second very important one is awareness, because to become completely 100% laboratory animal free, we don't only need the scientists, we also need the public. They need to know what the possibilities are. They also need to feel safe taking a drug that has not been tested on animals, because that's the way it has been for years and years. So creating the awareness of, one, the problem, but even more important, the solutions that are already there, the options of non-animal methods, that's another very important strategy focus of us. And then last but definitely not least, the focus on politics and government. Because of course, in the end, we need to change laws, guidelines to make it happen and to have non-animal methods implemented and being used, hopefully worldwide. And there comes TPI as well. So the transition program towards animal-free innovations, of which I'm definitely going to tell you way more a little bit later on. Just first, quickly go to our milestones as the organization Proefdiervrij. We were founded in 1897, which means that we have our 125th anniversary this year. We were actually thinking about, well, let's celebrate this, but then we also realized, well, maybe there's nothing really to celebrate, because in a way it's very sad that we still need to be there. We're still talking about 500,000 animals being used only in our small country every year. So yeah, is it a milestone existing for 125 years? I'm not sure. I hope I'm unemployed quite soon because we have reached our final aim. Another one I would like to mention is the start of our research fund in 2009. So that's the moment from where we started to financially support scientific research. And by now we have financially supported about over 55 projects and worth about 6 million euros. And another one I would like to mention is the partnership with the Health Fund, the Dutch Burns Foundation, because that's really something, well, that we are, to be honest, proud of and very, very happy with their commitment to also work on animal-free innovations. For them, the reason is not the animal test is the biggest problem. Like the ethical part of it is not their main issue. Their issue is that they see that burn wound patients do not get the best help because the animal models don't translate well to the human situation. And that's the reason that we collaborate now, and together we can fund more and more scientific projects that help human beings, so the burn patients in this case, but also help the animals that are still in the lab now. And then, of course, in 2017, the start of the transition program for innovation without the use of animals. What is TPI? TPI is a partner program initiated by the Dutch government that strives to improve science without the use of animals. And it's basically around the idea, the question, how can we improve research into medicines, food safety, and chemical risks without the need for lab animals? That's the question that we try to keep in mind all the time. And within this transition program, it's very important. I would like to state the difference that we believe are there, the 3 R's versus TPI. They are both very important. And in a way, it's kind of, this is a 3 R's webinar, and it's about the replacement R. In a way, we don't really focus on the 3 R's because replacement of animal tests still means that you think starting from an animal test, maybe even as being the golden standard. But from a transition point of view, you don't even want to get there. You want to go back to your scientific question. What is the question, and what is the best way, and what is the best model to get the best result? And to go to that transition, we need a whole change of the whole system. So as long as we perform animal tests, the 3R policy is very, very important. But the transition, in our eyes, is bigger than that and entails even bigger changes. Who are part of TPI? It's a pretty big group of partners, and we as Proefdier Vrij are part of it right from the beginning, even before it started, actually. But the Ministry of Agriculture, Nature and Food Quality is in charge of the program. Besides, well, you can see the whole list here, the National Institute for Public Health and the Environment, the Association of Dutch Health Foundations, but also think of the associations of the universities in the Netherlands, in the academic medical centers, the Netherlands Organization for Health Research and Development, so who subsidize research projects. So they're all different partners with very different goals and aims that are collaborating within TPI, all because they all see advantages of working on this transition, and they see why it is important. And for us, our main reason to join is, of course, because we believe that in the end it helps us to get to our final goal, the complete replacement of all animal experiments. But for all these partners, everyone has another reason to join, and we always look for the common denominator. And that's how we find each other, and that's how we collaborate and strengthen each other as well. But how does TPI, where does it come from? What happened? And as there are so many people listening from all over the world, I find it very important to go through like the history of TPI a little bit, because there are quite some misconceptions. So to start with, in 2014, it was a small group who basically started a dialogue. It was called a think tank. From that, they published an advice in 2016. That advice kind of triggered our minister at that moment, and he set an ambition to become world leader in animal-free innovations by 2025. In that same year, he asked the National Committee for the Protection of Animals that are being used for scientific purposes to write an advice how to realize this ambition that he set in the same year. They came up with an advice including a phase-out strategy. But the important thing is that the advice from the National Committee was not inherited by the ministry. The ministry chose a transition strategy, and that's how TPI was born. In 2018, the core team of TPI kind of refined the ambition, and they refined it to, well, become forerunner in the acceleration of the transition towards animal-free innovation. So there is no year anymore. World leader has changed to forerunner, because world leader could mean that we are the only ones running in front, but we don't want to be alone there. We want to be together with more countries, and forerunner has more of a collaborating feel. So this is the current ambition of TPI. And our mission is to create scope for model development and animal-free testing, and to increase confidence in these methods. And that confidence is also very important. The models must predict the effect and safety of drugs and chemical substances at least as well, and preferably better than existing methods. New technologies using data and knowledge about the construction and function of the human body offer opportunities for this. This way, with scope for new approach methodologies, we wish to make animal testing increasingly superfluous. So that is the current mission of TPI. Of all these partners, we have created this together and said, well, this is what we can all go for, where we all want to go for and believe in. Very important in this is that we focus on basically that line going up. We focus on the stimulation of the development of non-animal methods. And we see it as, well, a side effect that the number of animal tests will go down. We do not focus on willing to decrease the number of animal experiments. That's of course what we like to reach. But for now, we focus on that line going up, because we believe then, because we have way more advantages, and it works for all the different partners. And just focusing on the decrease of the number of animal experiments, that's not something that all the partners wish to collaborate for and work for. So just to make clear what our role as Proefdiervrij is within TPI, because partly we have the same mission and vision. We also, as Proefdiervrij, we also work on the stimulation of the development and implementation of animal-free methods. Of course, we, in the end, all do it for the animals, because we do not want any animal to be a laboratory animal. So our role within TPI is to disseminate the voice of the general public and the animals. The animals are probably most important, but we're also the only partner within the program that is 100% dependent on contributions from citizens. And we can disseminate their voice. And besides that, we emphasize the reason of the establishment of TPI. When we go way back, so like 2014, 15, 16, it was the fact that we wanted a decrease in the number of animals being used for scientific purposes for several reasons that made the minister set an ambition. And we chose a strategy that was way more than just focusing on that decrease of the number of animals being used for scientific purposes, but it was the reason of the establishment of TPI. And of course, we as an organization with our goal and our mission, that's a role that we take within this partner program too. Then I would like to show you a few initiatives that are being set up in the last years, basically under the umbrella of TPI. And one of them, funds. Funds are made available specifically for animal-free and human-relevant research. One of the examples is the human measurement models. So this is a fund made available by the ministry, again, the top sector, the health funds, and the Dutch Organization for Health Research. And they made a few millions available specifically for human relevant research. Another very clear initiative example of one of the initiatives is an agenda on animal-free ATMP models. The network working on this wishes to promote the acceptance of animal-free innovations in ATMPs by the relevant bodies. And they look for the possibilities and what they can do, while they know that the development of cell and gene therapy products vary from product to product. So it's difficult, but they look at the possibilities. What can they do already? What roads can they pave? And who do they need? Another completely different example is TPI TV, which is an online platform at which professionals can find each other. They can post a question or share knowledge on the very broad topic of animal-free innovations. It can be a question on, well, I'm using animals and I don't really want to, but I would not know how to make them obsolete and what kind of model I need to use to get to my research question without using animals. But it can also be sharing information that they gathered or that they heard and want to share with the rest of the world. So definitely visit tpi.tv if you have time, and I think it's a very inspirational online platform. Then we have the so-called target images. So a target image is a realistic ambition for animal-free innovation in the next 10 years. It can be described in a quantitative or a qualitative term. It always aims to reduce animal use, but again, it has a very broad perspective. And there are currently a few fields of science that are working on targets, for example, the cardiovascular research, immunological research, but also education. So how can we get to education that is less dependent on the use of animals or laboratory animals, without losing quality, of course. And the same counts for cardiovascular research. How far are we? What are the possibilities? And what do we need? And where can we get in 10 years' time? Now, I think it's a very nice initiative to get specific fields of science to collaborate and think of, okay, what is already possible and what are the biggest barriers, and how to get there. And then say, okay, in 10 years' time, what can we do and what do we want to do? Who do we need? So it kind of sets a first step towards an action plan, how to actually get there. And then, of course, we have the helpathons and vital tissue, which I think are two beautiful initiatives that are, well, set up under the umbrella of TPI, but Evita and Sue will tell you all about it. To conclude, kind of what I called it recommendations, because I also wanted to, well, give you something to think of and know what you can possibly do. We are only a team of 11 people operating from a small country like the Netherlands. But by collaborating, by looking at the possibilities, instead of focusing on the barriers, we can achieve so much more than we might have thought beforehand. So dream big, but start small. Everyone can help in the transition towards animal-free science. Thanks a lot for your attention.
Welcome to this presentation about Vital Tissue, which is an initiative to supply viable human materials to laboratories in the Netherlands. There is a Dutch subtitle on the slide as you see it, and in translation it says vital tissue, we all have it. My name is Evita van der Steeg. I'm a senior scientist at TNO. And together with partners from Utrecht University, Hogeschool Utrecht and Logical, we are one of the initiators of the concept vital tissue. Vital tissue is it's a new national concept that will provide access to vital human tissue for all researchers in the Netherlands. This vital tissue is residual tissue obtained during surgery and not needed for further diagnostics, and it's currently often thrown away or stored into biobanks. And so by providing access, oh, there's an annoying, it's going automatically. Okay, sorry. By providing access to vital human tissue, vital tissue will enable better translation research and contribute to the reduction of animal testing. In the end, this will lower the attrition rate and bring medicines faster to the patients with less adverse effects. The consortium the consortium of the project Vital Tissue consists of 13 partners, including academic hospitals, research institutes, pharmaceutical end users, the blood bank, the National Blood Bank, medical ethical experts. So really covering the complete chain of vital tissue supply, to the use in the laboratory. So first of all, why do we need vital tissue? Well, whereas these pictures do make us think differently, we are not comparable to animals. We cannot be compared to animals, and well, specifically not to mouse models, which are sadly enough still highly used in research. If you look at the process of drug development, this is very ineffective and also very expensive, mainly due to the fact that many compounds fail in the clinical phase. So in the preclinical phase, we do need better preclinical models, specifically human models based on human tissue or human cells. And this is actually also what I experienced as a researcher at TNO. I noticed that the currently used preclinical models, such as the many simple cell lines and animal models, that they lack translational value to the human situation. And as Catherine already nicely introduced, so at TNO, we do develop human relevant models as alternative, as replacement for animal models. And the models that we develop are based on human tissue or tissue-specific stem cells, for example, in organ-on-a-chip application. Today, I will not talk about the models that we develop at TNO, but I will talk about this new initiative, Vital Tissue. So the development of human relevant models really require sustainable access to vital human tissue. The access is actually often the biggest problem, because not every researcher in the Netherlands, and I do believe not every researcher in the world, does have access to vital human tissue, because there is a limited availability and also accessibility, especially for non-academic researchers and researchers within industry. At the moment, there's no organized infrastructure for tissue supply in the Netherlands, but also not on a European level, for example. And that has also to do with some uncertainty about ethical and legal implications, especially the latter. So by launching Vital Tissue as a national platform, we can really contribute to the reduction of animal testing and give really a boost to the animal-free innovation that are so really give a boost to animal-free innovation. So in fact, Vital Tissue can be regarded, very simply said, as an online platform for suppliers and users of viable, non-frozen, fresh human tissue. So Vital Tissue will be an independent, transparent, not-for-profit organization that will organize the human tissue supply chain on a national level, and which can act rapidly in response to regional demands. So privacy and security of data, of course, is very important and guaranteed in the process. Currently research revealed that there is an abundant potential supply of fresh and vital human tissue available in hospitals, especially non-academic hospitals, but also in the academic hospitals, which is currently often discarded. So let me be clear, this is again not material needed for any diagnostic purposes or any treatment for the patients. And the material is, like I said, currently often thrown away or used for biobanking, and then it's stored in a matter that it cannot be used fresh afterwards. So besides patients, which really say we're happy to provide access to the tissue that is otherwise thrown away, we have consulted several stakeholders and they gave a very positive feedback. So yes, this should be arranged in the Netherlands, and there's definitely the momentum. So together with the partners of the consortium, we defined the key values for Vital Tissue. And I mentioned already some of them, but so here I mention them again. So it's non-for-profit, reliable, careful, and safe. And we would like to be facilitating, helpful, and connecting. And in the end, also knowledgeable, competent, and ethical. So in order to establish that, we will match the supply of tissue with the end users of the tissue by using a kind of an IT platform. We'll coordinate the tissue supply. So from the informed consent, so signing the informed consent at the patient level towards safe transport. We'll take care of account management of hospitals and researchers both in the public and private sector. Communication, of course, to all the stakeholders, including future patients, and also collaboration with governmental bodies, so ministry, also the blood supply bank, which is Sanquin in the Netherlands. That also results in aspects that Vital Tissue will not do, including owing or storing or processing the tissue. We will not use the tissue of non-capable people, so only adult patients will be asked to donate tissue. And Vital Tissue will not execute any commercial activities with the tissue. And also our end users are not allowed to sell the material as it is. So over the last 3 years, together with the consortium partners, we have run feasibility studies in which we took into account the topics which are listed here. So it was really a feasibility study to generate an advice report whether it was feasible to launch the initiative Vital Tissue in the Netherlands. So we looked at quality control and logistics of the tissue, of course, safety and data security, the ethical and legal aspects. We looked at some kind of market investigation. So is there public willingness? What types of tissue and quantity is needed by researchers in the Netherlands? We consulted some hospitals, whether they are willing to collaborate with Vital Tissue and start this initiative in the Netherlands. We looked at ICT platforms for matching the suppliers and the researchers, and of course, the governance of the organization, financial structure, and last but definitely not least, the awareness of the public. So really communicate about this initiative like we do at the moment. So to make it a little bit more clear, this is what vital tissue will be about. It's in Dutch, but I'll guide you through it. So the pictures will tell enough, hopefully. The research institute or the company first puts a request for vital human tissue. Vital tissue will then organize a contract or a so-called master service agreement with the organization. And if that's arranged, the researcher can put a request for vital tissue. We will test the request with the set criteria that we have set beforehand. And after that, if that's all arranged, we are ready for transaction. Behind the scenes, vital tissue is in contact with hospitals to align whenever there is a potential data to collect remaining tissue. The patient, of course, signs the informed consent, and the patients will gain a specific vital tissue donor ID number. On the specific date of the surgery, the tissue is collected in the hospital. It's stored or saved according to standard procedures, which is specific for the specific tissue types, because you can imagine that this might be different for skin tissue than for liver tissue. The tissue also gets a unique code and then is transported in the right buffer, usually on ice, in a tissue transport box, and finally handed over to the researcher in the laboratory. So I think this very nicely presents what we envision to do. And actually, this is also what we have done in our feasibility study. So we've run these kind of pilot studies to see if it's feasible to launch vital tissue. So in a nutshell, the results of the studies that we did is, well, first of all, the concept of vital tissue, in a general conclusion, it holds great potential, which has been shown by a lot of support of the Dutch public. So 94% of the more than 1,000 people that were asked was positive and willing to donate the tissue. There's also on the researcher side a high need of many different tissues. So about 1,200 tissue types per year. And there was only a selected group of researchers that were asked in the Netherlands. We did not find any ethical or legal barriers. Of course, there are some legal issues that we need to include. For example, the informed consent that patients need to sign, and that there is a unique identification number which is stored in their files. And in the end, we're aiming to deliver anonymous, or which is called pseudo-anonymous tissue. So the end user only gets a specific and minimum set of information about the tissue. So including age or age range, the gender, and the indication for the surgery. We have set guidelines on which organizations may be end users and who may not. And the end users must in the end meet the occupational health and safety requirements because of potentially contaminated tissue. We have made a decision on the logistics and the IT system. And you already saw flying in the advice report. It is in Dutch, but this is what we have as a result of our feasibility study. So together with the consortium, we generated this advice report, which really states, so if vital tissue is launched in the Netherlands, this is what it should look like with all the different advices. So I only tell it in a nutshell on this slide, with all the different advices that we put in there. An important part of the feasibility study was the pilot study, as we call the pilot study. So really transferring tissue from the hospital to the researchers. And actually, we could conclude that we have had very successful pilot projects in the studies. We looked at skin, intestine, liver, and in the end also fat tissue within the consortium, but also outside the consortium. And this really includes all the aspects from contracting the organizations to signing the informed consent by the patients and transporting the tissue, as you see here in the tissue boxes, on ice in the right medium to the researchers, and they perform some pilot studies with the tissue to really conclude that the tissue was viable when they obtained the tissue in the labs. Of course, in the course of the project, we have gained a large network of various stakeholders, including the consortium partners. You see in the in blue, in the inner circle or square, the co-funders, of course, which you see in gray, and in the external shell, a list of organizations that were involved in very different ways. So there's really a huge network of stakeholders involved in this concept of vital tissue. In September last year, we also got an NWO Science Communication Award granted, which is really about communication, scientific communication to the general public. So the goal of this project is to inform and involve the general public in biomedical research, and in particular to show them the use of human tissue. So really make people aware of the value of residual tissue and let them know that they can contribute themselves by really donating residual tissue if they need to have a surgery. And we will do so. So this started last September. We have generated an augmented reality tool, some kind of mirror, as you would call it, where people can stand in front and see their tissues and they learn about the tissues. And we will also, via interactive science streams, both online, but also in Corpus, which is a national museum, we will learn people about the value of human tissue, of vital human tissue. So various researchers will tell about the different models that they have developed by using vital tissue or cells from vital tissue. So please, well, this will all be posted on social media. So, and if you would like to receive more information on this also, please let me know. My email address is also in this slide. So, well, in the conclusion, vital tissue holds great potential. The advice report, although in Dutch, is available on request. The nice thing is that currently, so the vital tissue, the project, as I described, which was a feasibility project, a granted project that finished last year or beginning of this year, actually. Currently, we're in collaboration with an existing organization, ETB BizLife in the Netherlands, to see if we can really launch vital tissue in the Netherlands. The focus currently is on the Netherlands, but of course, this could be a nice template for Europe and even beyond. And already as an international exploration, together with the ILSI working group, we started an expert group to look within Europe for the relevance of the use of vital tissue, human vital tissue, for food and nutritional research. For vital tissue, to really launch it, the main hurdle currently is financing. So please let me know if you have any suggestions about that. And of course, if you're interested, please let us know via email or look at the website. There are also different ways of contacting us. And with that, I would like to thank, of course, the consortium partners. And this project was only made possible by the financial contribution of ZonMW in the Netherlands, Proefdiervrij, the SLV, which is the Stichting Loterij Acties Volksgezondheid, really Dutch organization, and the Dutch Ministry. And with that, I would like to thank you for your attention. And really, let's start now. The patients, but also the researchers and the animals, I should say, can't wait.
Before I actually go into a presentation, the Helpathon is something which you need to feel and see the vibes, the energy with it. And it is very difficult to do that with a PowerPoint presentation. So I thought the best way of conveying to you the real Helpathon was to begin with a video and to finish with a video. And I hope the technology is going to work for you this evening. I really hope so. But I'd just say sit back for a few minutes and enjoy this first video. And then I'll explain a little bit more what the Helpathon is all about.
Become a leading country in animal-free innovative research. A Helpathon is a very simple concept where anybody can ask for help to resolve a societal issue. In our TPI Helpathon practice, we invite researchers to ask questions on how to innovate in their research methods in an animal-free way.
For us, the Helpathon was really helpful to create a mind shift for the researchers who weren't able to think away from animal models and are now going to study this problem without using animals. I needed the help from many experts, and together we actually helped the researcher to change his mind about what is needed. And with that, we've actually created a new project studying the same research question, but with a different technique.
What Helpathon does for a researcher is it introduces them in a very informal way, semi-informal way, to brainstorm and discuss their research question. So we work together to think of a strategy to still get the same answer to the original research question. And you do that with a group of people, over 2 days in a very informal, friendly atmosphere. And then it actually creates a network of collaborators for that scientist to work together with in the future to actually make that transition over to the animal-free method.
A Helpathon can be useful not only for researchers but also for policymakers, for health research funders, regulators. And regulators, for example, can help to explain whether animal testing is necessary or not. So everyone's input is necessary.
Basically, a Helpathon is about organizing coincidence to innovate with those who want and those who can. So a Helpathon welcomes anybody who is touched by the question. And we try to make it happen that people from different backgrounds attend to the Helpathon. So we don't talk about each other, but with each other.
As Debbie already said, the Helpathon is actually a spin-out from the TPI initiative. And what we're actually aiming here is to really get to animal-free innovation and to help the scientists who are actually really stuck in their animal model to make this transition over. So first of all, let's just introduce the team. I think you saw most of them actually in that video. There's me, obviously. My background is a cell biologist. I'm a tissue engineer. I'm a skin biologist, basically, working for experimental dermatology for many, many years. Also in our team, we have Karine van Schie, and she is a health research funder. She actually works by the Dutch Burns Foundation, so she has a lot of experience in how the funds are working. One of the key players is Pepik Henneman, and he's a societal entrepreneur. And if I'm being honest, the Helpathon would not be the same without Pepik and his Meneer de Leo company, which uses and brings in this very vibrant and open and safe atmosphere, which is very, very characteristic of the Helpathons. And in that team with him comes Jantien Wijma, who is the co-creation facilitator. And she just brings in the trust and the open space and the sort of the room to create really within the Helpathon. Debbie Byers, who you've already been introduced to, is our societal impacts person. And we have a young postdoc, Ibrahim Korkmaz, who is helping now with the administration and that into the cell biology. So as you can see, we're a very multidisciplinary team involved from all different aspects. We're not biologists, all of us, only a couple of us are, but we're all very much motivated to this animal-free innovation cause. Now, I was thinking how best to illustrate the Helpathon to you, what it actually means. And when we're giving lectures, we quite often use this Mentimeter, where people just put in keywords, which you open up a website, a web link, and you say, now, on this theme, what comes to your mind? So I thought maybe that would be the way to illustrate to you actually what is a Helpathon, what it means to me. Yeah, and the bigger the word, the more important the word. Obviously, the animal-free innovation, that is the key thing. Also central, as you saw from the video, is the research question. Without a good research question, focused research question, we can't do this two-day Helpathon. Yeah, we want a researcher who is using or thinks they have to continue to use an animal model to answer their research question. Yeah, so we need a good biological medical need research question. And then we just dissect away the animal model and we just go for the aim and we try to make a new plan for it. So it's very important as well. Science then is obviously important. And for the science, you need the interdisciplinary participations, multidisciplinary collaboration is very, very important, obviously. We need our researchers to join us on this. And you need also the policymakers, the health professionals, the financiers as well, just to give their advice and to keep things going. But what is also very, very, very important with this is we're talking sometimes on sensitive subjects, and you have to create a safe environment. And that is what we have. What is said within them walls of the Helpathon, they stay in the walls, and nothing is said externally without full consent of everybody who's participating in the Helpathon. And this means then that you can actually be open with each other and discuss these sensitive issues. And that is the whispering. Yeah, that is a new word which came to me when we started doing the Helpathons, was whispering, where you can whisper to each other in a very safe environment, knowing that it won't go any further unless you want it to go further. And that's the key, I think, to the success of the Helpathon, the trust and the confidence with the participants. I'm going to try to change my slides. It seems to have got stuck on me. Shame. Let's have a look, see if I can do it that way. No. Oops, yeah, it's gone. So what is also a very vital thing about the Helpathon is the law of 2 feet. It's a workshop, and quite often, which I know from other workshops and from teaching, you have these breakout rooms, or you have these groups, and once you've joined one of these groups, you feel a little bit uncomfortable if you think, no, actually, I'd rather not be here. I'd rather move on to see what's happening next door, but you don't really want to get up and move, yeah? With the Helpathon, we have what we call the law of 2 feet. And it is basically your responsibility that if you think you're in the wrong place, if you're not learning and you're not contributing, you have to get up and use your 2 feet to respectfully move to another group, yeah, to another area. And in that way, you keep things circulating and nobody seems to stagnate in an area where they don't want to stay in. So this, I think, is another vital success point for the Helpathons, which we call the law of 2 feet. If you're not contributing, you've got nothing to add, you get up and you move on. So how does it actually work? It's basically set out in 5 phases. And I must admit, the whole organization of the Helpathon comes from Meneer De Leo and Pepik Henneman. And they have this for a lot of different subjects, and the Helpathon is one of them. But this is how it is actually implemented here. You have the opening phase, what we call the opening phase, and that is where the central research question is illuminated by the researcher who wants to transition. And here we see the scientist from who has from the Dutch Burns Foundation, the very first Helpathon. And they are asked to present their research and why they're actually using the animals. They think they need the animals to the group. Yeah. And it has to be done in a way that isn't too heavy science, because for real success, you need a lot of different types of people. You're not just having scientists there. We've even had school children attending these Helpathons, and they can come in with such brilliant feedback. Yeah. And you have financiers, you have societal people, you have anybody from the public joins the Helpathon. So the way this is now presented is of vital importance that everybody understands the basic idea of the research question and what we actually want to try and get to in the end. We started off the Helpathons before Corona times, and then we were live. And I think the first 2 Helpathons, we were actually live on location. And they were a great success. And then Corona hit us and we thought, what are we going to do now? Yeah, we've got the 3rd one planned in the Dutch Primate Center. We really wanted to go for it. And then this idea of the hybrid was set up. Until then, we were just doing national, it was open for national people because it was a live thing. And then when we had to go hybrid, it actually created a whole huge more possibilities, basically because going along with the regulations as they got stricter or they got easier, we could have so many people attending live. But then we had the Helpathon House or Helpathon Hotel, which is an online technology, which enables people to move around this hotel by themselves. So you're not put in a breakout room where you have to stay until somebody lets you out again. You need the idea of the rule of 2 feet. And that is what was very, very good here. You see Pepik actually doing all the working on the technology, the big screen here, and you see the few people live in the Helpathon, and all the rest are online. And we were going up to 50 people now in the Helpathons because we could have them in from all over the world. We even had people coming in from Australia and America. Now that is something very special, which you wouldn't get if it was just live. So because of COVID, the Helpathons actually moved to another step as well. But the success was actually the program used here, because people could just move in and out of the different breakout sessions as they wanted. You could even go to have a little coffee break with somebody on their own, and you're totally free to move, the idea of the law of the 2 feet. Yeah. So this is where we actually started also to move to hybrid sessions as well. So some slides you're going to be seeing are the live ones, some ones are going to be the hybrid sessions, but it gives you the idea of the vibes of what's actually happening there. The next phase of the Helpathon is what we call the open space phase. Now, for the first time you experience this, it's quite confronting, because usually, and I was quite like it at first as well. When you write in for a workshop, you say, okay, can I see the program? Can I see the agenda? What are we going to do? And then you want to know what you're going to do first, and when the coffee break is, and when the lunch break is, and you want it organized. But that doesn't work with the Helpathon. You do not have an agenda. There's no program beforehand. Yeah. The first thing you actually do after the scientific question has been presented is that you all come together, whether it's in a hybrid or in a room together, and you make the agenda yourself. With bits of paper, post-its, posters on the wall, you start actually just thinking, now, having heard that question, I think this is an important subject to discuss. And that could be anything to do with the development of organoids. It could be something to do with the societal impact. It could be to do with the financing. It could be anything. It could be education. And this is how you get all these little parallels also arising from out the Helpathons, which also add to this whole transition to innovative animal-free science and movement. So what we're seeing here is in the open space phase, where everybody's just standing there thinking, and generally you have to give it a couple of minutes. You have to appreciate the stillness, the quietness here, and just let it happen. And that's quite difficult because usually you have the feeling you have to interrupt and do something and keep things moving, but you have to take back and relax and just let the agenda form on its own. And then everybody has made the agenda themselves, so they're all very, very motivated. And then you set up different work groups around the agenda points to discuss it. This then comes to the hard work, I'd say, the tryout phase, yeah? And we take this over 2 days. The Helpathon actually runs for 24 hours over 2 days. So we usually start just after lunch and we finish at around lunchtime the next day. So that means people coming in from, for instance, Australia, they can pick it up when we leave off and work through the night, and we feed back to them in the daytime. So it's very nice like that. But it also means that what you actually do on that first afternoon, which is starting to work out these agenda points, and you can see it here, it's lots of brainstorming going on, lots of discussions going on, just two people talking together, groups of people talking together, yeah? And you're working towards this, an animal-free innovation to be able to get the same answer for the research question, but with nothing to do with animals whatsoever. They do not even come into it. You're not trying to replace them. You just look at the research question and think, now, this scientist could be helped by this contact, for instance, if it is, I'm just thinking liver organoids or something, if it's a liver based research question for a disease model, saying now, this scientist could be helped with these people in this institute because they make liver spheroids, and could also be helped with these clinicians because they know the clinical problem more, yeah? And this is where this is all starting to form and come into place. You then go home and you just let it sudder around in your dreams all night long. Then you get up in the morning, you shake your head, you get away all the bits which aren't relevant, and you come in with more focus the next day to work it out even further and sharper together. One of the final parts of the actual 24 hours is what we call the communication phase. And this is the fun bit, because until now, it's all very informal and it's all very relaxed, but it's quite hard work as well. Yeah, everybody's very motivated and serious about trying to get a result. And then you actually have, at the end of that imagination phase, you have a strategy which you'd like to present. And then in this particular phase, the communication phase, then we have other people joining in from external, the ones, people who haven't had joined the whole Helpathon, but just want to hear the results of the Helpathon, yeah? And they join in here and we give it like a festive presentation of the results. We make it a bit of a party. We go a little bit out of our way to make a theatre, sounds a bit strange, but a theatre thing or a show of the results and the alternative methods, just to bring it over very nicely and as a nice take-home message and a way of finishing the two-day meeting. But in parallel to that, we are making full documents and handouts for everybody to be able to receive afterwards. And this is actually like in the follow-up phase, which takes place around a month later, where the Helpathon team checks in with the scientists, because basically they've just been given a whole load of homework, you know, at this festival thing. It sounds quite good fun, but basically the take-home message is you've got homework now, you know, we've got all this information for you, you now have to use it. We've given you a whole list of contacts and action points, and you've got this summary of the whole thing. And so now it's for you to make the next move. And we are here to help you in any way possible, to help you further with networking and with contacts and where possible with finance. We've been able to finance a number of our Helpathons as well, so that the researchers could really get the money to continue in this direction. Yeah, and so this is all happening like in the month following. There's also a full report coming out, which gets sent to all the contributors, and they first check it. Now, are they happy if their picture is in it? Are they happy with what's written in it? Again, thinking about the confidentiality and the whispering idea. Yeah, that is actually how we round up these Helpathons. Now, if I just show you now what we've actually been doing, in my last slide before, I'd like to take you into a few minutes of another video, which actually shows one of the helpatons. Yeah, we started off with the very first one with the Dutch Burns Foundation. And that was actually the scientist was using large animals, pigs, for the research, thought he had to carry on using them to be able to get this drug into a phase 1 clinical study. And it turns out this drug is actually, it's a repurposing. It was actually a drug which was already being used for different medical needs. And so what came out of the helpathon was that a repurposing of a drug, yeah? You don't need animals for it anymore. You can actually just use this idea to, with the alternative methods, to develop, learn more mechanistically, and also set up new methods for improving burn wound healing. Yeah, and this project is financed by the Dutch government, and it is running now. It's going very well. There's a clinical study in it, and human skin equivalent models instead of the pigs being used in it. Also, the organ-on-a-chip technology is being used into it. So we considered our first helpathon was very much a success and really motivated us to carry on. The next one was organized by the Dutch Heart Foundation. So you see here the importance of having the finances on board as well. And this one here was where we challenged scientists to jump from the research to using animals to actually using human tissues. And you think like what you've just heard with vital tissues, where you need fresh human tissues. This scientist really needed actually live tissue section slices for the research, and could do a lot of the research with that. There was also the idea of starting out a spin-off company as well, because some of the research was already so far that it didn't really need any more animal research. You could probably just take the jump straight further to marketing from what they were actually working on. Then we moved into the hybrids, and the first hybrid we did was with the University of Utrecht here. And this was an interesting one because we usually have 2 researchers at each helpathon, and one of these was actually coming in with a scientific question, wanting animal-free models for her liver research for liver disease. So that was like a straight scientific research one. And the other one was somebody wanted to develop a master course for the master students at the university to actually around the animal-free innovations. Yeah, so in that way we set up a nice idea of an innovative animal-free innovation course. And in this course, just to keep students motivated, and with that, the idea of an escape room was brought in. You know, I think students are usually just stuck with a standard test where they have to answer multiple choice questions or whatever. But here we thought, now put all in an escape room, and they have to answer all the different questions within the escape room to keep moving up and escape out. And this was all based around animal-free innovations and technologies, choosing which cells you wanted to use, a cell line or a primary cell, for instance, and which organoid models would be best for the research question. And it just takes you through this. And so this was a very nice helpathon. And actually that master course is now still running. The idea of the escape room is now being implemented in the VU University Medical Center as well as the Utrecht University. So that is where this is already spin out to other universities as well. Our fourth helpathon was a very nice challenge. That was with the Biomedical Primate Research Center. And again, a hybrid because of the Corona times, where we actually introduced these 3 scientists to the idea of using organoid models to fight Alzheimer's, malaria, and tuberculosis, which until now they were primarily using the primates for. And with this, obviously, they could not be expected to take on all these very complicated technologies all by themselves. I mean, you're talking about a very complex organoid cultures here. You're talking about Alzheimer's, you're talking about brain organoids, blood-brain barrier, tuberculosis, you're talking about lung organoids, and you need organ-on-a-chip technologies for this as well. So what the outcome of this was really to introduce them to a huge network of scientists where they could actually work together with in the future to actually reduce the number of primates and really to start thinking and transitioning a lot of their research questions over to the organoid models. And the last one was actually at the Amsterdam University Medical Center where I work. And this is where we tackled 2 research questions on cardiovascular disease. Again, a subject which is very difficult to get the animal alternative methods going for. That's in one of these target images that we were presented as well by Debbie. Yeah, so cardiovascular disease, neuroscience, immunology, they are the real challenges. And so here we actually helped out 2 scientists. One was a fundamental scientist and the other was actually a clinician. And there again, we came up with some very nice alternative methods and networking for them. Yeah, and all of this actually culminated in us winning the Lush International Lush Prize in 2020 for training, because we consider these helpatons as a training and an education. Yeah, we're actually teaching scientists how to actually transition to alternative methods and providing them the means, whether it is networks or actual real labs to get the technologies from themselves.
I would like to welcome everybody. We are very excited about this helpathon.
It's like an informal gathering of people from different backgrounds that come together to see how they could address specific questions raised by researchers.
I'm glad that the management of the BPRC gave the green light to Jeffrey and his colleagues to organize this helpathon.
We are trying to find answers for the transition to animal-free research.
For the next 2 hours, we have an agenda that is fully empty because you will fill it. Whatever happens is the only thing that could have. Whoever comes are the right people.
I'm going to invite you to check in, all of you online, to hear your voice.
So there are questions related to the research of the brain, the lung and the liver.
I came here to get some help in setting up a 3D culture system for liver cells.
I came to this community with the question, is the time right to put an immune system into a lung organoid model?
I like to talk to people from different backgrounds, and it always provides you a different perspective. They ask you questions that you normally don't think about because you have your own tunnel that you look into, and then this really shines the light out of it.
It's a nice atmosphere. Everybody's here to help you, and they're all very friendly.
There is a charm to this complexity. What kind of challenge you have got for me? I'm on my way.
Sometimes researchers stay longer with sticking to certain type of models.
You do not go to a conference on alternatives.
You just said something important there. Here we are in Studio 2. Here I'll go to KikoChat. And this is the question we're currently discussing. And here we write our report. It being online, it's easier to commit yourself. You don't need to travel, and you can quite easily with a few clicks, you're in the middle of a meeting. So you can easier follow more discussions and contribute to different discussions.
At 7, we meet again in the briefing room. I'm very happy that Eva said it's almost 5 because I have to go and pick up my kids.
It feels like being part of the team, and it feels safe.
Goed, over 10 minuten is het eten klaar.
Okay.
This 2020 helpathon invites to emulate precious words and some open advice, inspiring us to co-create.
We're going in the mode of imagination. That mode helps as well to share knowledge.
I can even imagine the model being a library.
Time dimension, yes or no?
Yes.
Yes. You have only 2 yes left.
I know.
We're making a sort of an end presentation. We're trying to capture the whole story in a sort of a fairy tale setting.
We're presenting to everyone.
Once upon a time, in a country far, far away, somewhere in a liver-shaped castle.
I thought it really went well. So in that regard, I was pleasantly surprised that the virtual environment worked well. I definitely felt to be in touch with the other people that were participating, getting the people together in such a nice, constructive and positive atmosphere. I think it was absolutely terrific to be part of that.
You can feel the energy from the other participants through the screens. Everybody was really enthusiastic.
I found it really interesting, really engaging, and also to approach the question from a different perspective. That was unexpected, but I found that very nice.
I think what is the most interesting and very inspiring part is that there are so many people from different areas. Combining all their knowledge helped me very well with answering my question.
I want to thank everyone for making it such a nice way to dream together, and I hope that all our dreams come true.
I look forward to contributing further from the other side of the world.
Thank you, everybody, and have a good evening.